everybody, and welcome. Thank you for tuning in. This is our full spoiler review for Hellboy. This is Ian here along with Chris.
Hi.
Hey, if you guys are coming over here from our quick synopsis, the non-spoiler, and you want to have all the cats out the bag, this is the spot. But of course, just up front, getting that out of the way, if you don't want to hear all that stuff, if you're waiting to go see this one yourself, you've been warned.
Don't wait.
Oh,
we get everything you need right here.
There you go. There you go. So,
unless you're a big Mila Jovovich fan, which two things: first, why, and secondly, okay, yeah, no, you don't look like her. So
now, treading back, I'll talk a little bit more about, of course, her who she actually played and everything as we get into this. But treading back a bit, do I have this right? Was her last thing, like action-wise, Resident Evil?
Yeah, I think it was the last one. Resident Evil. Crap, they made 6 of these.
Yeah, there's so many.
That was the original title for that one. Was you bought tickets to this? Haha. Yeah, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how much of a standalone you'd be willing to look at Hellboy as, especially because of how this is getting set up. I mean, obviously they want to follow this up with sequels and stuff. We'll talk a little bit about the extra after credit stuff and all that we see as we get into it.
Yeah, you're not going to get a sequel. There won't be a sequel.
There's some look. This has got an uphill. This had an uphill battle from the start. You know, it's funny you mentioned the RE series alongside of this. Like, you know, with RE we had a whole bunch of them. With this though, this is going naturally up against the Del Toro films. Now, this is bear in mind, of course, this is a reboot. This is not a follow up to those films. So, I think no matter how hard you try, if you've seen Ron Perlman's Hellboy, if you'd seen those old films, you can't help but, I think, play a bit of parody between the two, sort of, you know, balancing and looking at
yeah, I mean, you know, you have to.
Yeah.
It's, you know, who's, you know, it's the main character is the guy in the red suit that looks like a demon. So, I mean, you have to compare. You know, now we covered the trailers leading up to this on our weekly podcast, The Jagged Edge, coming out every Sunday. Check it out. So when the first one came out, and you and I were actually divided. Because you're like, I thought it was fun, and I'm like, this is shit.
Yeah.
And but then the second one came out, and I was like, you know what, this is all right. This could be okay. I turned it around. You know, I enjoyed the first two. I'm not a big Hellboy guy. You know,
right.
we're big comic book fans over here, but neither one of us have followed Hellboy, which has had its entire run at this point. So,
right.
You know, I really enjoyed the first two, the original two Hellboy. The second one more.
Sure.
You know, Del Toro had an amazing vision for that. You know, visually and just as far as it being great directing, special effects, which oddly enough, the special effects in the first two are often better than the special effects in the movie that was made over 10 years later.
Yeah.
To figure that one out. Not always, but at times.
Right.
You know, yeah, I mean, if you're a huge fan of the other two, you're going to be disappointed by this.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I enjoyed them, and it's like, all right, well, we'll see. They're not going to make a third one. They're just not. Del Toro and Ron Perlman, they tried, and the studios were like, well, the second one just didn't make any money, but after the fact, turned into a cult classic.
Yep.
I think if they would have made the third one, it would have brought people in. They would have been. I think you would have seen a little bit of a correction from the fans, like, look, we didn't go see the second one like we should have. We're going to make sure to go see this one. But they didn't go that route, and you know, here's the thing. Overall, this movie has some good moments in it. There's some stuff here. There was some quality content here. Now, I don't know if you'd heard, Ian, or not. I caught wind of this sometime in the last couple nights. Apparently, there was a lot of infighting between the production, between the producers and the director.
The behind-the-scenes fallout behind this. I mean, there are even some kind of semi-petty arguments over stuff like the depiction of the tree.
That's right.
It's wild. You know, I know there's been some question as to, you know, how valid is all of that? What exactly were the arguments? But yeah, regardless, apparently there was a walkout at one point on set, like using new retake stuff like that. So
Yeah, David Harbour, I believe that was
Yeah,
who plays Hellboy. Actually, I mean, and when your producers are just cutting your director out from under the knees, I mean, you're going to have people that are going to react. I mean, they're actors, and we all
right.
like to think that actors are great. Actors, most actors probably not so great, and will do stupid actor things. So, um, that being said, David Harbour is the shining light of this film.
Yep.
And I would give a little bit of a nod to Sasha Lane as too, as Alice. I enjoyed her as well.
Hmm.
The relationship between Hellboy and his father, Professor, I can't see the name here, it's cut off, but his father in the film, I thought that was really done well.
Right, right. Professor
I
Broom, right?
Broom. Okay, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was done really well. I have to be honest with you though, this had Spider-Man all over it. Uh, I mean, this was Andrew Garfield Spider-Man all over. Nobody wanted this reboot. You're retreading so much old ground, and it just doesn't feel as good as it did before.
Right. And looking at that about all the retreading, I mentioned this in the short, our short look at this too, but for not, I can't quite class this as a full origin story per se. I think for not being a full origin film, there's a lot of exposition you get, and I think the way this sort of jumps around and the way you sort of cut to a lot of different locations, that I think that when we talk about pacing and how jaunty everything gets here, that can get a little out of whack. So
Hey, let me just say something, because I was joking before. Mila Jovovich, and she's fine. She does a lot of really bad movies, but you can get good performances out of her.
she has some range. No, she does. She can.
I'm not sure what you have to do to get that out of her, because it certainly doesn't show up too often. But it is there, so I'm kind of joking around with that. But she can be a really good actor. Just she wasn't here. I mean, they could have put a cardboard cutout in her place, and I probably would not have known the difference in this movie.
Speaking of that, I think as far as like her role, that this is definitely something that wasn't a Milla role written all over it. I mean, look, the legend behind it's awesome. I love stuff about Arthurian legend and all that. I love. I've always thought that's awesome, but there's plenty I think that could have fit this specifically, or at least made that look the queen herself just really menacing and bring that presence. In fact, I think speaking of just villains I was interested in, man, I kind of like the pig more.
He was fun.
He was fun. I kind of, yeah, more on him.
I guess we're pulling obscure characters out of this movie and saying which ones we liked. Lobster Johnson.
Lobster Johnson.
What the hell was that? And he was awesome. He needs his own show on Netflix
Yes, yes, he does. Lobster, from what I can see, Lobster Johnson is like the closest thing you can get in the Hellboy universe to a mix between Batman and Punisher.
I mean, I figured he was something like that. I'd not heard of him again. I've not read the comics, which is going to reflect in my overall rating, because I'm going to go off the rails on how I normally rate things 99% of times. I will be doing it a little bit differently at the end here.
Right.
But, Lobster Johnson and Bebop over there. So, although the story for the pig guy was weird. Okay, so he's a changeling.
Right.
Okay, why was he stuck in that form? That I didn't catch, because that was like his whole thing, right? Like, he was pissed at Hellboy because Hellboy showed him a horseshoe, and that scared him. And I mean, but if he's a changeling, then why couldn't he just pick a different form?
I think I thought it had something to do with just him being bound like that. Curse. I don't think he could freely jump forms like that.
Okay, so it was like that. Okay,
right.
It didn't make a lot of sense, but
Right.
that's all right. That's like the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
So it just kind of fit in. I mean, look, the plot on this thing is paper thin. It's barely there. It's almost got an early 2000s feel, where it was like a lot of movies made at that time were just the plot was excuses to give you one sequence from the next, and here's what's happening in this moment, and here's what's happening in this moment, and they're all loosely threaded together because there's similar characters that are interacting in them. The you know, in props for going with it. I thought the whole King Arthur thing in Excalibur. Oh my God! I mean,
Yeah.
are you serious? And when they first showed it, and they did the best they could with making that horrible decision.
Right.
I mean, they went full with it, and but it was garbage. It was horrible.
Speaking to that, I think one thing this film has going for it, as it attempts to do at least, is to stick so much closer to the source material, almost to a fault. You know, it's a weird position to be in, because I think this film knows what it is. It tries to goof around and have fun with that on almost Earthworm Jim levels of like just weird and random sometimes, and then yet they're like, oh wait, well, we're adhering to the comics as close as we can. I mean, a lot of stuff is ripped. I mean, right out of there. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, that whole the arc with Morgan Le Fay, and that is just me just summarizing a little bit of stuff that happened before, and then comic-wise, revealing that Hellboy was the last of this lineage of Arthur due to his birthright and stuff, and how all that
Oh,
falls.
is that out of the comics?
It is. It is.
Yikes!
It pulls back, but in a way, I think it's almost to a fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Yeah.
It's ironic that you say that. I was trying to even be a little introspective about this whole thing and trying to be deep. It's kind of funny because a lot of the message in this movie, which I thought was great up until they're just like, in case you didn't catch it, this is the message to this movie, was that, hey, people are going to try to tell you what to do. You're going to think that your lineage and, the fact that you're a demon, that you're different from other people should dictate what you do. And other people are going to try to tell you, you need to be doing this. You need to pick your own path.
Mm-hmm.
You need to pick your own, which I thought I mean, it's not like they were very metaphoric with it. They were very literal with the whole thing. But then at the end when, so what was Alice's character doing? She could, like, what, ghosts would come out of her guts?
Yeah.
Is that what that was? Which, by the way, was awesome, but I don't think was done very well.
I was going to comment on that, where she, they kind of like just spewed up and out. I mean, the effect of that was kind of weird. But.
Yeah, but when he's like, he literally just drops that at the end. His Hellboy's dad, just
right.
His ghost dad at that point, just drops. Is like, wow, so you had a perfectly good message going there, and then you just kind of stepped on it by just like, in case you're 3 and you have a hard time catching on to what we're saying here, right. This is what we're saying, which is, I guess, is kind of ironic, because that's kind of the whole problem of the movie. At the same time, the movie is dealt a tough hand of trying to be what it is, while at the same time everybody trying to tell it what it should be.
It's metaphor.
But the creators itself, or at least the final product, didn't have the sack to be what they thought they should be themselves.
Well, and part of thinking what it should be or what it should become, I kind of wonder about that. This doesn't strike me as a film that wants to come across as super preachy. If anything, it strikes me as something that wants to be this joyride per se, and that really wants to bask in that R rating.
You're definitely. I think that's where actually we're seeing a lot of the conflict between the producers and the director. And a lot of times, like, hey, look, blood and guts, and we're ripping people apart. And did you know we're R-rated? Because you've already dropped 20 fucks. So you didn't catch that. We are. And it's, I think I think you can see the line between where the producers were like, well, we're going R-rated, so we're gonna, we're gonna hit it right on the head. Where at times somebody's trying to tell a story here.
Right.
And it just seems to get lost in all the garbage.
Yeah, as far as the handling of that, I was saying before we started up that I had some flashes of Venom. I think taking a look at this and I don't think Venom even quite tried to embrace its R rating quite like how this does.
Well, no, because I think, didn't that end up being PG-13?
Because it didn't. That's the joke. Didn't even get it at all. This
they shot an R-rated movie.
Right. They did. I actually would have been interested to see that in its entirety. But that's another story. The way that's sort of put in your face, I kind of question with the could we have had, if we'd stuck more in that storytelling line, could there's more we could have had fleshed out, and sort of less of the bathing in the fact that looky what we're doing. I think the R rating carries with it a certain respect, especially. It's
Yeah,
sort of like I always like the films more. It's like, hey, I'm rated R, but I don't need to tell you every 5 seconds I'm rated R.
it's amazing because they got this shit down 35, 40 years ago, but for some reason Hollywood's forgotten how to do it. Okay, so a good R-rated movie is Alien
Yes,
or Predator. Okay,
absolutely.
something that's R-rated because it needed to be R-rated to tell the story, not we're going to be R-rated, so let's throw a bunch of F-bombs and a bunch of bad CGI blood and guts.
Right.
You know, this actually didn't have to be an R-rated movie. I'm fine if it would have been PG-13. Actually, I probably would have liked it a little bit more because it would have toned down, again, and this is some of the issue that you had with Love, Death, and Robots, gratuitousness for the sake of being
Yep.
gratuitous.
Yep.
There's no point in that. I mean, could I pin a couple times in Alien where it's like, yeah, that's what earned it its R rating? I probably could pin a couple,
Sure.
but was the chest burster important to that whole film? Absolutely.
Critical.
And that's the whole thing. So this didn't need it, and especially at the end with the giant skeleton monsters just stepping on people and ripping people. It was that was not needed. Not to mention, it just looked really bad.
Right. And some of that shines through. And I was looking at it, I'm still trying to get a hard figure, but the closest that I saw for this budget-wise, was something pretty funny. I think this was like, what, 50 mil or so, and I want to say
Wow.
the original had a little more to work with than that. Like,
I keep wondering if they made this movie because they had to make this movie. If there was something in there that's like, well, if we don't make a Hellboy movie soon, we're going to lose the rights
right,
to
right.
do it. I don't know. I don't know what the contract is behind this, but I don't know this. And it's funny because the director, he's done a couple horror movies in the past that were really great. Descent, which I have seen. The other one I have not, which is Wolf Soldiers or something like that. I hear that one's good as well. I've not seen that one, but
Right.
Descent is great. It's a great movie.
Cool. I've heard of that one.
But yeah, I mean, and actually when I related that he had made that one, I'm like, and he made this? He made Hellboy?
Yeah.
Wow. I think there was a lot of meddling. It's yeah. Yeah.
And diving into that, I sort of wonder when we get into contracts and agreements. I mean, the end credit, the post credit scenes totally tie into that. We jump ahead months later, taking on another kind of shadowy Illuminati style organization. But again, the Oannes, if I'm saying that right, the Oannes Society, that's another thing that's pulled right from comics. Apparently,
yeah, so you got to research comics more than I did.
I tried to see because they were saying this tied so close to it. I was trying to look for it, and I was kind of surprised. Usually, you have a nod at a source, but this is literally like, page for page, rip for rip. But looking at it, especially bringing in the character of Abe Sapien, he was a major one in the Del Toro movies too. And
that's the fish guy, right?
That's the fish dude, exactly.
That's
so. I mean, there's just like this huge throw at, hey, that character you love, here he is, and there's definitely got to be another movie, just because it's just stuff that's so direct and overt like that. That felt as direct as Woody Harrelson's Carnage appearance.
Yeah, there's not going to be a sequel. No. I would be very surprised if there's a sequel. I would be very, very surprised. I think this is going to bomb. Yeah. We'll see. I mean, what was Shazam out there and Pet Cemetery? And what you got? Everybody's getting ready for Endgame here in a couple of weeks. This just kind of landed at a weird time.
Let's look at that too. I think the time it landed is pretty important. At Endgame is the cinematic event I think a lot of people are looking at in a superhero film. But I think Hellboy's in this sort of weird place where you can come in and watch it, I think, without a whole lot of lore and having to have seen 20 plus films beforehand just to get here. And I think if you sort of take it in that context and in the perspective of someone that's like, hey, I'm out to see just a ride of a movie. I think the question at the end of the day is, can you see this and have fun? Can you honestly, objectively watch this?
Yeah, no, you can. And in fact, it almost requires you to have brainless fun.
I think that's really where this sits. I feel that the more you know about the comics or the more you loved the original films, probably the more distant you're going to be from this one. I think just on a basis of just, the sheer kind of like mindless fun factor, sit down. Yeah, it does that. I think it does that well. So,
Yeah.
but the rest of it, though,
It does that.
right.
I don't know if it does it well,
Fair enough.
but it does do it. Like I said at the beginning, there are some good action scenes. There,
Yeah.
I mean, I came away from this like, all right,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. There's this, the one that sits in my mind is the image of, can I call that a Draculich? Am I,
I don't know.
am I cool with doing that? I'm just going to call it Draculich. I'm just going to call it, End of Days Hellboy riding the Draculich with the flaming sword. I mean, that's, the imagery there is pretty sweet. I remember that was a part of the trailer too, and I kind of nodded when I saw it. I'm like, yeah, that's a cool shot. I wonder how
You're just not in the right generation. If you would have been in a generation prior, you would have been the guy with the van with like the dragon painted on the side of the van, and you would have been that guy, wouldn't you?
I don't know, man. Dragons really aren't my thing.
All right then. Well, then you're freaking out about that, so I don't know.
Yeah, I can just I appreciated the landscape of that shot from that scene. I'm like, artistically, that's pretty cool. But
Well, yeah, it's got a good director.
yeah, so but
Just wasn't allowed. I would, it's funny because I was thinking to myself after I got out of the theater, I'm like, I would love to know what he wanted to do versus what,
Yeah.
what the producers let him do and what they interjected in. But then I'm like, you know what? I don't really care.
dang,
I'm going to forget about this in a week.
yeah,
So just what everybody else.
oh man,
So that would have been interesting. And maybe someday if I come across it, I'll watch it. But
Right.
really, no.
right.
Nope, and I won't care. So
Overall, you got Easter eggs everywhere. Maybe I think just with the sheer amount that's happening as a result, I think a lot of people who are really close to the source material, they'll pick up on those things. Others won't. Plain and simple. Compared to the Del Toro films, I think you have a lot less of that playful vibe than you do the sort of I'm R-rated, let's roll gore fest that you have here. So at the end of the day, when I'm thinking of these two side by side, I gotta say, at least for the first one, I'm leaning towards the Del Toro film. But again, there's a lot here that I think never fully gets off the ground realized in the way that it fully could be for a film like this.
yeah, no, it's they're more fun, but they're also done at a different time, and I
Right.
think that's part of why at this point people would have really liked to have seen the third Hellboy movie, because to use today's effects and today's technology, which again isn't like too huge of a leap ahead, but is definitely a solid leap ahead from the last one that was made. I think a lot of people would like to have seen that.
Sure.
This is it. Yes, again, it's Spider-Man, dude.
Yeah.
But it's the reboot no one wanted.
But the real question is it the reboot you need? Not the
No,
reboot
it's
you
not
asked
the
for.
reboot. We didn't need or deserve this.
I had to ask.
Nope.
Oh man, so hey, it sounds to me like we've rounded that bend. What are you gonna rate this out of? How many Hellboys?
I am giving this. Are we going by Hellboys? Can we go by little baby Hellboys?
I like that, little baby Hellboys.
Little 1 out of 10. Little baby didn't need to reboot it. Baby Hellboys. Okay. I have 2 ratings for it.
All right.
And from what you were saying, you did nothing but strengthen the fact that I felt that this was necessary. For a average moviegoer like myself, who has no context for the source material, the comics, I give this a 6. Mm-hmm. If you are a comic fan of Hellboy, I'm going to give it a 7.
There you go. I'm actually in a similar vein. I came to this, objective, looking at it for what it was, and I said, hey, for all the random and all the craziness, okay. 6 out of 10 little baby Hellboys from me.
Okay, now let this one go away for a while. Let go away. I want to watch a Hellboy movie. I want it to be great, and I want to not think about this Hellboy or the other Hellboys while I'm watching it. I mean, that was part of it. I touched on it a little bit. Again, the fact that this retreads so much of the old story from at least mainly the first movie made me constantly think of that movie.
Interesting.
And let me know here real quick.
Yeah.
And again, not a comic fan, so if it looks right from the comic, that's fine. But from what I've seen of Hellboy in the past, his right arm was just off. It bugged me the whole film.
That bothered you, really?
Yeah, because it just didn't look right at all. It's like that is way too low. That just doesn't look right at all. It bothered me the whole film. And by the way, how is he getting that jacket over that arm? But I wondered that in the other ones too. I mean, because they're not showing any straps or anything where like maybe he like straps it on after he puts it on his left side. It's there. It's hey, how'd you do that?
I thought I think a simple aesthetic fix for that. You're actually absolutely right. I think it would have been simplest just to have that portion just like torn, or have to have the edge of that ragged to be like, yeah, I kind of like busted a hole in this jacket to put this here.
I mean, didn't that bug you?
No, it bugs me now. No, it bugs me now. I look at it.
Now that I bring it up, it's like, yeah, how do you do that?
It's just one of those little things, and I'm like, oh man.
All right,
crazy. So
I mean, guys, this is the perfect. Well, we've seen everything else in the theater. Let's see this, or this is a perfect. Want to see something different? Let's get this out of the red box, or let's stream this for the night. And, it's really not much more.
No, and overall, though, I will say this: I don't believe this is deserving of the 10%, 11% or whatever got hit by it and Rotten Tomatoes.
I saw that too. That's rough. I don't agree with that.
I don't think it's that bad. Come on, man. We've seen way worse.
It's either it deserves more, or so few people know so few Hellboy fans. Because if you're a fan of the comic, I would recommend this.
Sure.
So maybe there's just not that many Hellboy fans anymore. Maybe that's why.
Could be. But hey, are we wrong? Somebody out there listening to this, are you a Hellboy fan? Or maybe not. Maybe you just really just like watching this movie, or didn't. Hey, let us know in the comment section below. Would love to hear from you guys. Of course, stay tuned right here for the rest of our reviews. All that good stuff we're going to have coming on that channel. You dig what you're hearing, a like helps. And if you dig it even more, a sub's going to help us go even further. I think that's going to do it for us, though, man. So this is Ian. This is Chris. Thank you guys for tuning in. Catch you again. Hey, people. Thank you for tuning into this episode and taking a listen. If you like our content, if you like what you're listening to, or anything we go over, hey, please, we would not only love to hear more from you, but it'd be great if you could throw some support. You can subscribe right below. Also, you can toss us a line anytime. That's ksawmedia@gmail.com. Of course, you can tune in for our channel anytime for movie reviews, game reviews, a lot of random wacky stuff. Who knows what you'll hear. And of course, our episode each week where we're bringing the nerdiest things we can find, dig up, and maybe not find. Maybe the stuff that just drops in our laps. But anyway, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We hope to hear from you again later. Take care.